I wanted to go into discussing the collective consciousness because a lot of people, even though it pretty much is self-explanatory, to some people it might require a little bit of discussion. So I'm just going to discuss the two different types of consciousness to give you an idea. In society, you have groups of people who think certain ways. One of them is the individualistic consciousness, where basically everybody thinks for themselves, does for themselves, and everything's about them. Whatever problems arise, they bring their thought patterns to the table, and there's no possible idea of compromise. It's their viewpoint, and in some cases that's acceptable, especially if you're looking for diversity. If you're looking for diversity to address a problem, it's good to have an individualistic consciousness, because that way all the individuals can come together with their different viewpoints and address the problem. But there are some problems in this world, especially societal problems, relationship problems, that require a collective consciousness. And a collective consciousness is when you have a group of people who feel and think and act on the same way in regards to a certain pressing matter that's in their group. It could be religious, social, political, it could be financial. If you have a group of people and you have an issue that comes up that affects that group of people, and everybody feels the same about it, and they're thinking the same, they're more likely to be successful at handling the matter because they all are on the same wavelength. And people with a collective consciousness, when it comes to these major issues, they're more likely to succeed because they're more willing to cooperate with each other. Yes, each person is individual, but one person might feel the same way about something and is ready to actively handle it. Just like the fella down the street, just like the lady around the corner, they all feel the same way. So they finally decide to get together about this issue or something that's going on in the neighborhood, and then they attract more like-minded individuals, and then right before you know it, you have a group that is addressing a cause, and they have an official voice. And then that way they can influence, the parties that are involved in the situation, come to some kind of negotiation, if not eliminate the problem, because they have power in the mindset. A lot of people will sit there and say, well, you need a ton of money for that. Look, I understand how capitalism works, and sometimes you do need a lot of money to handle things, but it starts off with a group of people who are thinking and feeling the same way about a cause, and that are passionate to do something about it. And that's key. They have to be willing to act upon it. Just thinking about it and dealing with these people is not going to solve the problem. And if you listen to my previous audio, identifying the problem is not the same as solving it. So you have to be prepared to act on it. And the collective consciousness, I believe, was one of the major things that allowed for the civil rights movement to be as successful as it was, because you had a lot of people from all walks of life, people of color. And when I say people of color, it's not just black people, because there were also Latinos, there were also Asians, there were also people of mixed race that were involved in the civil rights movement at all. And it's unfortunate when that's brought up, they only refer to African Americans. I don't think that's fair. I believe if you're going to tell the story, tell the whole story. And that's the truth. So when I say people of color, I'm referring to anyone who is not of Anglo-Saxon ancestry. People of color. And they had a collective consciousness. Some of them were from Pennsylvania, some of them were from Alabama, some of them were poor, some of them were business owners, some of them were somewhat wealthy, and it just didn't matter where anybody came from. They all had the same mindset, and they were prepared to act upon it. They were prepared to do the research and get the resources, and prepared to work together with a sense of urgency in an organized fashion. And they didn't look to the left or the right for excuses or for a reason to stop. It was full steam ahead. It was full steam ahead. And even though Malcolm and Dr. King were very instrumental, they were very, very prolific leaders. However, they wouldn't have that leadership if it wasn't for the support of people who had that collective consciousness. They were very gifted and very talented in their own right, but in order to develop a following, you have to have people who believe in what you are trying to explain to them. They have to believe in your points, and that's a good thing. So a while back, I think I mentioned in a previous audio, I don't know if I posted it here, I might have posted it, I think I put it either on Rumble or I put it in a forum because it was a bit of a sensitive nature. And I mentioned in a conversation that I had with a friend of mine, and he was talking about how we were in the middle of a new civil rights movement, and I adamantly told him, I said, not today, brother, not today. And he said, you're being negative. I said, no, I'm being truthful. I said, because we do not have a collective consciousness. We have a few little groups here and there, but the consciousness is not strong enough as a people for us to do that. Not right now. Will it change? I'm sure it will. But it all starts with us. And until we understand in our minds it's not all about us when we get grown, that we're actually part of a society, that we are a piece of a puzzle, and that we have certain civic responsibilities to our neighborhoods and to our governments and to our churches and to our schools, until we understand as individuals we have a civic responsibility and exercise those responsibilities, then we're going to be stuck in an individualistic mindset, and we will not develop a collective consciousness and will not see the need to address any of these causes and will not be willing to work towards them. They won't. You'll have a handful that'll do it for, in hopes to get some business or get some money for financial reasons, but they won't last long because they'll be sought out by those who are serious about the cause. So once you establish in your mind that there are issues within the culture that you're in and that they need to be addressed, or else it's going to be a continuous generational curse situation going on, then it is going to keep on going on, and it's not going to be another civil rights movement until we learn that it's not all about us and that the selfishness has to go. And unfortunately, in some households, you have people in immediate family where you got parents that are just thinking about themselves. And I mean, barring whether or not they have any mental illness or under any influence of substances, I'm not talking about that because those two things are altered states. I'm talking about just regular folks, regular people who are in a situation where they're in a family. And I don't know if it was because they weren't taught the importance of a family unit, but they just don't feel the need to look out for the people under their own roof. Not at that level. They just feel all they need to do is just pay a few bills here and there and go to a party or two, and that's it. But they haven't developed any relationships with people under their own roof. So if you can't even do that with your own flesh and blood, then what good are you going to be to a bunch of people out there in the street trying to deal with your neighborhood? And that's the divide right there. So until we get to that level where we understand how important relationships are and how crucial they are, then that collective consciousness is not going to kick in. It's not going to be strong. And like I said, anything could change today or tomorrow. I consider myself an existentialist, where I'm like, if you don't know who you are is yourself, then, there's not much else to it. You'll fall for anything, you be anywhere, do anything. No accountability, no nothing until you find yourself. You're going to be in the same messed up situations over and over and over again. You're going to get older and older and older, getting more and more gray hairs and more aches and pains. But you're going to be stuck in those same ways because you haven't found yourself, haven't found your sense of purpose. so you can establish good relationships and, show some care about where you are. So anyway, that's my take on collective consciousness. Tell me what you think in the comments. I mean, like I said, I truly believe that collective consciousness is what drove the civil rights movement back in the 60s. It wasn't so much one or two people. They were the instruments, but without a collective consciousness, I don't believe it would have been as successful as it was. And we are severely lacking in that right now. And I do believe that it starts at home on the inside. It starts from the smallest unit, and then it kind of just spreads, So with that, I'm going to go ahead and leave you to it. Have a great day.